The story of this anime begins in a prison cell. Our protagonist wakes up feeling somewhat disoriented, but when she tries to move, she realizes she's chained. Yeah, definitely a rough start. Seeing her situation, she understands that she has been captured by barbarians. We are then shown how she ended up like this. The year is 1342, the year of the dragon in the eastern continent. In barbarian territory, both armies had turned the land into a battlefield. Knights and barbarians clashed with swords and maces. Our protagonist's army relied on infantry troops. However, their bullets barely scratched the barbarians' armor. Despite this, the vice captain ordered them to keep firing, but within seconds, they were completely overwhelmed. With the disadvantage growing, he reported the situation to our protagonist. She ordered him to remain calm, reminding him of his position as a knight of the Eastern expedition. Ildoran, cutting down any enemies in her path, commanded the center and right flank to advance in a semicircular formation, aiming to repel the barbarians and create an opportunity to retreat. Finally, she reminded them that they were the army of the Kingdom of Ildoran, and that she was their captain, Serafina de Laval. The moment she said this, 4 barbarians charged at her. But our protagonist drew her sword, and, with a single motion, cut them all down. Taking advantage of a brief moment, she assessed the situation. She realized they had already lost many soldiers, and if casualties continued, their chances of retreat would become almost non-existent, marking the end of the first Eastern expedition after 7 long years, just as they had begun considering withdrawal. Amid her troops, she hears screams. In the distance, she spots a barbarian carving his way through her men. Serafina is stunned by the sight, and soon, they stand face to face. The barbarian approaches her and demands a duel. Our protagonist knows she cannot ignore someone with such power, so she accepts. She asks her vice captain to inform her brother that she gave her life for her homeland. With that, she charges toward the barbarian, leaping into the air as the battle begins. They exchange blows, but at one point, the barbarian pushes her with overwhelming force, sending her flying. Serafina rises again and re-engages, clashing swords once more. As time passes, she is gradually pushed back. Suddenly, Serafina begins to pray, asking for the blessing of Princess Wisterizia. At that moment, her sword begins to glow, and gathering all her strength, she unleashes a decisive strike. In the next instant, the blade of her sword is seen flying through the air. Everyone nearby is left in shock. Serafina collapses to the ground, completely exhausted, as she hears the barbarian praising her for lasting so long. Despite his words, she tries to stand and continue fighting, but he stops her, smiling in a disturbingly sinister way. "I'm going to make you mine," he says. Hearing this, Serafina's expression changes drastically. However, the barbarian reassures her, claiming she won't be in danger, as long as he finds ways to make use of her body. And so, we return to the present. Remembering that she is now nothing more than a war trophy, she wonders if they will force her to work in the fields like livestock, or perhaps torture her for information. Neither possibility worries her, but when she recalls his final words, a chill runs through her entire body, as she imagines what they might do to her. Because of everything that's happened, she starts rolling on the floor, saying that a noble, unmarried woman like her cannot live with such humiliation. Just then, she remembers her soldiers and wonders if they are still fighting for her, but she immediately dismisses the idea. The time they managed to buy wasn't enough for a full retreat, and even if the rear guard had escaped, the front lines would have been completely scattered. With no hope left, she assumes they are all dead or enslaved. Thinking about it further, she realizes that might not even be the worst outcome. Without control over the East, the barbarian territories, the people in the capital will gradually weaken. Frustrated at being unable to fulfill her duty as a noble, she breaks down in tears. At that moment, she hears a woman's voice. Turning around, she sees her jailer. The woman introduces herself as Circe, a servant of the man who captured her. Serafina looks her up and down, assuming she has come to extract information. Circe asks what she means. The commander demands that she stop pretending, pointing out the torture tools she brought. Circe replies that she only has one order: to make his war trophy presentable and to his liking. She then pulls on the chains, forcing Serafina to stand without resistance. Serafina had already imagined the worst kind of torture, but no matter what happens, she won't tell them anything. After this, we see the barbarian captain from before, who can no longer wait to see his prized trophy. Meanwhile, Serafina is completely soaked and breathing heavily. and Cersei remarks that she has finished cleaning her. Once again, Serafina asks what she thinks she's doing. Cersei answers that, as it should be obvious, she's removing the blood and dirt because Serafina looked like a mess. She mentions having heard that Serafina fought her master. Knowing that, she expected a rougher woman, but in the end, she found her quite This irritates Serafina, who assumes she's being mocked. She reminds her that she is a knight and doesn't need to be feminine. It doesn't matter whether she is or not. The only thing that matters, Cersei replies, is that she caught her master's attention. Hearing this, Serafina asks what she means. Cersei responds that it's useless for her to know, since she will never leave this place. That statement frightens the commander. When she sees Cersei pick up a knife, she becomes convinced that torture is about to begin. Cersei then takes a pair of tweezers and approaches her. Serafina closes her eyes, unable to watch what's about to happen. However, instead of torture, they remove her chains, trim her nails, tie a ribbon in her hair, and change her clothes. Confused, she wonders if they aren't going to torture her for information after all. They even put perfume on her, something she seems to like. Even so, she still doesn't understand what they are preparing her for. Cersei finishes and says that now she should be presentable. Serafina begins to think this might be some strange barbarian ritual for prisoners. But then, a loud creaking sound echoes through the room. Serafina asks if it was thunder, but Cersei replies that the sound came from a single person. At that moment, the barbarian captain appears, descending into the cell. As he enters, he comments in amazement at how much Glass Skull has changed. He recalls that during the battle they didn't properly introduce themselves, so he does so now. Now that they are no longer fighting, Serafina notices just how massive he is, along with his golden eyes that don't seem human. At that moment, she finally believes she understands his intentions. She remembers a story her grandfather told her about the Eastern expedition 20 years ago. Back then, it sounded like a fairy tale, but now she realizes it was all real. Apparently, the barbarians steal the hearts of their prisoners. To her, those inhuman eyes are proof of it. She introduces herself as a member of the Marquis family of Lavalent, a noble of the Kingdom of Ilderin, the youngest daughter of her former Lord Matitis, and commander of the first squad of the Eastern expedition, Serafina de Lavalent. She declares that she does not seek any mercy. They may sacrifice her or use her however they wish. Yes? That took some serious courage. Both are left surprised by her declaration. Confused, Bior asks what sacrifice she's talking about. He immediately clarifies that he brought her here to make her his wife. That instantly makes Serafina blush. She shouts at him to stop deceiving her, insisting she knows he just wants her to lower her guard to use her for something strange. Bior insists that's not the case, but she doesn't believe him, reminding him that they are enemies. In response, Bior explains that while he doesn't know Western customs, things are different in his lands. For generations, his family has followed a tradition of marrying female knights. Serafina makes it clear she won't fall for his lies. Bior, however, doesn't seem to care, reminding her that she herself said they could do whatever they wanted with her, and, well, that's true, she really walked into that one. He then reassures her, saying that his decision wasn't just about tradition. He genuinely admired her skill. In other words, it was love at first sight. Those words leave Serafina completely flustered, unable to utter a single sound. Bior calms her, assuring her that he has no intention of forcing her into anything. With that, he leaves, while Serafina remains utterly confused. And honestly, who wouldn't be? Now, we go back 7 years into the past, to the Kingdom of Ilderin. In the territory of her family, her brother, Sidios de Lavalent, informs her about the expedition. Our protagonist accepts the position of captain without hesitation, promising to fulfill her duty and bring glory to her family name. Before departing, her brother hands her a letter from the royal court, inviting her to a banquet. Though hesitant, Serafina ultimately accepts due to her brother's insistence. In a scene change, we move to the outskirts of the capital, where people gather around an announcement for the expedition seeking volunteers. Upon seeing the pay, some are excited and consider joining, while others immediately dismiss the idea, thinking it's far too dangerous. At that moment, the Lavalent carriage arrives. Everyone lowers their heads as it passes, and we follow it all the way to the mansion. Serafina steps out, overhearing that some hadn't expected her visit. At the party, people mention that food has become scarce because of the war, though for some, it has also brought benefits. They also talk about Serafina, questioning the fact that a woman is leading the army, even if she is known to be one of the strongest in the order. They note that it's common for members of the Lavalent family to become commanders, but still question how a woman could reach such strength. Tired of hearing this, Serafina steps outside for some fresh air, but a group of ladies approaches her to keep her company. They ask if she will truly lead the Eastern expedition, mentioning that the land is full of violent, unknown creatures, supposed dragons and monsters. Serafina replies that those are just fantasies, though she admits it will still be dangerous to face the barbarians, comparing them to human-shaped beasts who abduct female knights for sacrifice, insisting that such a place is no environment for a woman. Fed up with hearing the same arguments, Serafina slams her hand on the table. She declares that the kingdom of Ilderin has sought to conquer the East since its foundation, and for her, as a noble, it is an honor to be sent there to fight for the people's peace. One of the women responds that she should leave such matters to men, saying there's no point in a woman fighting. She even brings up Princess Wisteria, whom Serafina deeply admired, who disappeared on the battlefield, adding that the greatest honor for a woman is to marry and stay at home. This angers Serafina, but she holds back from striking them and walks away. Back in her carriage, she reflects on how those at the party enjoyed music while people in the streets starved. Suddenly, she hears someone calling for help. A group of men is about to attack a defenseless person, but she intervenes to stop them. She warns them that if they resist, they will lose their lives. However, seeing their weapons, she realizes they are just villagers. One of them recognizes her as a noble by her sword, but another urges the group to attack anyway. She defeats them easily, but doesn't seriously injure them. She asks if this is their first time resorting to robbery. One of them admits they had no choice, they would have starved otherwise, and says she wouldn't understand. Serafina knows they're right. So, she removes her necklace and offers it to them, on the condition that they promise never to steal again. Grateful, they accept and swear to use the money to feed their family. As they leave, Serafina asks them to endure just a little longer, promising that she will soon conquer the East so they can live happier lives. At last, the day to depart for the battlefield arrives. Before leaving, we see her in a room filled with paintings. She vows to fight with all her strength for the people in the kingdom, asking Princess Wisteria to watch over her. At that moment, her brother enters and asks if she found a suitable husband at the party. Serafina doesn't understand the question. After all, she is about to leave. However, he cuts her off, claiming that, like the others, her desire to become a commander is nothing more than a selfish whim. He tells her she has grown enough and must marry while she still can, adding that carrying a sword doesn't change that fact. As he speaks, his image begins to shift, transforming into that of the barbarian, asking her to become his wife. Confused, she doesn't understand what's happening. Until she suddenly wakes up. She wonders why she dreamed about the barbarian only to hear snoring. Turning her head, she finds him sleeping right beside her. But something else has awakened as well. While watching him snore, the blanket covering Bior's body slipped, revealing a massive, titan-like physique that intimidated the protagonist. Startled by Serafina's screams, Bior woke up somewhat confused. Trembling, she demanded to know what he was doing there. Not understanding her point, Bior simply replied that this was his bedroom. Since that was the case, Serafina demanded to know why she was in his room while he was naked, especially since she had been in a cell just moments before. Bior, dismissing her last point, mentioned how glad he was to see her so energetic after what happened last night. Hearing this, Serafina imagined the worst, unable to bear the thought of carrying his child. She grabbed the barbarian's sword and begged him to end her life right then and there. Seeing her talk such nonsense, Bior gave her a light tap to bring her to her senses and questioned why she wanted to die. With tears in her eyes, Fina told him she couldn't stand losing what little prestige she had. Bior remarked that her attitude was pathetic, which annoyed Serafina. She made it clear that for knights, honor and shame are of utmost importance. Just then, Circe appeared with Bior's clothes. She was surprised to see that Serafina had awakened without any side effects, considering that after Bior brought her back, he had given her an overdose of the sedatives used to transport her to the hideout. Bior admitted he was worried, apologizing for administering more than necessary and regretting the incident from the night before. Serafina felt embarrassed upon realizing that that was what he meant by last night, but she still asked if he had done anything else to her. Bior replied that he hadn't and suggested they go to breakfast. After he left with Cersei, our protagonist remained confused and somewhat humiliated for being provided for by a barbarian. In the silence, she began to reflect on her grandfather and brother, who always encouraged her to prioritize her femininity. Bior's previous words of confession came to mind, making her blush. To stop thinking about it, she decided to head to breakfast, mentally preparing herself to eat whatever was served, assuming it wouldn't be a problem since she was used to military rations. However, upon reaching the dining area, she saw a massive piece of meat being cooked. She immediately started salivating. After all, even at home, she never received such a feast. Bior, unsure of how much a Western warrior eats, served her a large portion. Serafina was shocked by the size of the serving but misinterpreted Bior's intentions. Thinking he was trying to break her pride with luxuries, she exclaimed that she would rather starve than be pampered by a barbarian, though her stomach rumbled loudly right after, leading her to beg for death again. Bior countered that if her stomach was growling, it was because her body still wanted to live, and she shouldn't deceive herself. He added that refusing to eat was a sign of disrespect to the life sacrificed for the meal, clarifying that he doesn't kill for sport. Seeing Serafina still resisting, Cersei revealed that this particular prey was caught specifically for her arrival. She mentioned that on the day Bior brought her back, he went out hunting to provide a proper banquet. She noted that in the West, someone of Bior's capability would be royalty, and here, by lineage, he is a prince. She asked Serafina, as a noble, not to reject the food out of politeness. This finally convinced her to eat. Serafina took a bite and was instantly enchanted by the tender, juicy meat, admitting that such a meal would be a luxury even for the royalty of Ilderin. Bior, acting surprisingly kind, asked if she liked the food. She replied that she couldn't complain, though she still refused to marry him. At that moment, Serafina asked what kind of meat it was. Bior mentioned that he had hunted it in the mountains, and told her she could see the creature through the window. Serafina went to look, intending to see if she could domesticate such an animal in her own land, but she was met with the sight of a dragon. Understandably, she was completely shaken. She asked if they really just ate a dragon. Bior casually confirmed it. To Serafina, this was surreal. As in the West, dragons are considered legendary creatures that breathe fire and possess poisonous meat. Bior explained that there are two types and that, in this region, they are actually treated like a pest. Despite this shocking revelation, Serafina kept eating because the meat was simply too good to resist. Bior laughed, and Cersei, seeing that Serafina finished her entire plate, remarked that she clearly didn't plan on dying anytime soon. Later that day, Bior wanted to take her to the mountains to show her something, but Serafina remained untrusting, reminding him she had been his prisoner for 2 days. She argued that it made no sense to wander into a place filled with such strange creatures. Bior countered by saying that common sense varies from place to place, shaped by local cultures and wildlife. He then challenged her, asking if she was simply afraid. That was enough to convince Serafina, though she made it clear she still didn't trust them. Bior promised she would love what she was about to see. As they stepped outside, Serafina was mesmerized by the vibrant and colorful landscape. Bior asked if something was wrong, and she replied that she just hadn't expected nature to be so lush and abundant in this place. They continued their walk, passing a wide variety of animals, including another dragon. Bior explained that dragons are just one of many species in the area, and as long as you don't disturb their nests, they won't bother you. As they walked further, Serafina heard a strange sound. When they finally reached their destination, she discovered a magnificent waterfall. Bior, seeing her reaction, asked if waterfalls weren't common in the West. Serafina tried to deny it, but she knew deep down that the scenery was breathtaking. Seeing her expression, Bior made it clear he wasn't trying to show off. He simply wanted her to see the view. That done, he abruptly asked Serafina to take off her clothes. Startled, she refused and demanded to know why. Bior's answer was simple. There is only one thing to do in the water: bathe. This annoyed Serafina, as she had been imagining something far more scandalous. Still, she questioned the concept of mixed bathing. Bior explained that it was their custom, to which Serafina shouted that she had no intention of following such barbaric tradition. While she was arguing with Bior, Cersei approached her and bluntly mentioned that she was starting to smell. Embarrassed, Serafina finally agreed to bathe with Cersei. However, seeing that Bior remained close by, Seraphina commented to Cersei that he was likely staying to keep an eye on her as a prisoner. Cersei didn't deny it, but added that he was also there to keep her safe from the local wildlife. Right then, a Sawayu appeared and roared at the protagonist. Cersei tried to calm her down, claiming that the creatures in this area are actually quite docile. Regardless, Seraphina didn't feel safe with monsters nearby and ended up running out of the water in a panic, completely naked in her haste. While she was worrying about getting dressed, she heard a man's voice. Terrified, Seraphina expected to see a barbaric stranger. Instead, she found a man who was clean-shaven, looking completely unrecognizable and about 20 years younger. Seraphina failed to realize it was Beor, thinking he was someone else entirely. He explained that he had moved away because he saw beasts near the waterfall. He also revealed that his mother was a warrior from the west, leading Seraphina to suspect he might be linked to an old expedition. As they spoke, Seraphina began to shiver from the cold. A worried Beor wrapped her up and even carried her in his arms. This made her extremely nervous, as she had never been that close to a man before. At that moment, Cersei appeared, revealing the truth. Seraphina hadn't realized the man was Beor all along. He apologized for not grooming himself sooner and admitted he found her innocence charming. Embarrassed, she struck him, reminding him that she is a maiden. Rather than getting angry, Beor seemed to like her spirit even more. He remarked that he now feels he knows the woman he loves much better. Seraphina eventually forgave him, though she demanded he never pull a stunt like that again. He happily agreed, calling her wife once more, which irritated her. A few days later, Sarah grows restless as Bear invites her to a meeting with his clan. He shows her the meeting place, the Riverside Village, the oldest and largest settlement of the Barbarian race. Sarah carefully notes the village's location but finds herself questioning why Bear is revealing such critical military information. She wonders if he is underestimating her, reminding him that she could escape to her homeland and leak these details to her army. Upon hearing her warning, Bear bursts into laughter. He playfully reminds her that just a few days ago, she was starstruck by his clean-shaven face, so he doubts she'd ever want to harm him. Confident in his charm, he believes he can easily make her his wife, leaving him unconcerned about any potential information leaks. As they bicker back and forth, Sarah remarks that they are already acting like a married couple. Eventually, they reach the meeting site, where Sarah finds herself surrounded by 100 intimidating men, armed to the teeth. Every single barbarian begs Bear for a chance to test their weapons against the captain. Sarah fears her time has come, assuming they want revenge for their fallen comrades. To her surprise, Bear orders them to stand down and give her a proper tribal welcome. Hot-blooded warriors immediately calm down, making way for her with cheerful expressions. Perplexed, Sarah asks why there is no talk of vengeance. Bear puts the question to the men themselves. They solemnly declare they hold no grudges and form a warrior's line to welcome her into the tribe. Though still skeptical, Sarah follows Beor and the others through the formation. As they walk, one barbarian breaks into tears, moved by her bravery and martial arts prowess on the battlefield. Soon, others join in, praising both her beauty and her skills. Flustered by the unexpected compliments from her enemies, Sarah is reminded by Beor that barbarians respect strength above all else. Deep inside the village, Sarah observes a peaceful community at work. Bear stops at a house where water is boiling and announces they will stay there while he meets with the elders. He introduces Sarah to the lady of the house as his wife, asking her to look after her. The woman, instantly charmed by Sarah's beauty, drags her inside, ignoring the girl's protests. Inside, the woman apologizes for her bluntness and prepares herbal tea. Sarah is impressed by the independence of the barbarian children who help with the chores. While drinking the tea, which she finds surprisingly refreshing, Sarah learns that the two women living there are not related, but are both widows whose husbands died in battle against the West. Overwhelmed by guilt for the actions of her own people, Sarah offers a sincere apology, expecting them to be angry. However, the barbarian woman looks at her with confusion, unable to understand why Sarah thinks they would seek revenge. Sarah reminds the women that it was her people who killed their husbands, noting that it might have even been her own hand. At this, the women fall silent until the eldest finally speaks. Though saddened that her youngest son never saw his father's face, she considers it a blessing that he could at least attend the funeral. She remains grateful for her son, raising him with love. He points out that if not for the war, barbarian men would likely lose their lives in other dangerous pursuits exploring caves, fighting monsters, or hunting dragons. To her, it is only natural for their women to lose husbands frequently. Sira is stunned, wondering if all barbarians view the loss of life with such detachment. Suddenly, an alarm bell rings through the village as the watchtowers spot an approaching attack. Before anyone can react, a winged creature crashes through the roof. As the smoke clears, Sira stands face to face with a great beaked dragon. Cersei identifies the creature as a Tsukikshi, drawn by the smoke of the hearth. Sira realizes their tea gathering inadvertently triggered the attack. As the monster is drawn to the crying of a frightened child, Sira prepares to fight. Cersei urges her to flee, calling her Bear's precious wife, but Sira firmly refuses. She grows angry at Cersei for treating other lives as disposable, while focusing only on her. Reminding Cersei that she is no fragile princess, Sira stands her ground with the pride of an Ilderan knight captain, facing the dragon with nothing but a pair of hot fire tongs. She uses the tongs like a baseball bat to drive the creature back. Despite Cersei's warnings that a kitchen utensil cannot defeat a dragon, Sira retorts that the beast's attack is nowhere near as powerful as Bear's sword. Determined to protect the family, Sira leaps at the dragon and stabs it directly in the eye. She finally orders Cersei to leave so she can focus on the fight. Elsewhere, the barbarian warriors subdue another dragon. With the creature pinned, Bear delivers a luau blow to its neck. He learns there are 3 more dragons invading the village and orders his men to evacuate any remaining civilians, confident that Cersei has already led Sira to safety. Bear and his men quickly take down 2 more dragons, leaving only one unaccounted for. Suddenly, Cersei runs toward him alone. She frantically explains that a dragon attacked the house. Before she can finish, Bear sprints past her. Meanwhile, Sira is forced into the open. Realizing the creature is faster than her in the field, she turns to make a final stand. Though both are exhausted, the dragon lunges with blinding speed, its beak shattering Sira's tongs. Resigned to her fate, she accepts death, proud to die as a knight with her honor intact. Just as the dragon closes in, Bear arrives, shouting for her to cover her eyes. He unleashes a deafening roar that shatters the creature's eardrums, using the opening to tear it apart. As the dragon falls, Bear sincerely apologizes for being late and thanks her for risking her life to save his people. Hearing the genuine concern in his voice, tears begin to stream down Sira's face. She is confused by her own emotions, unable to stop crying. Bear smiles silently and carries her back to the village, knowing she is too exhausted to walk. As they return, Sira finally allows herself to be treated like a princess.